What is up, party people? Hello and welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video here on the Cup Chasers. That's right, Martinelli could be leaving to HILAL, and the Alvarez saga is continuing to wind down here as the end of the transfer window looms. And I just wanted to weigh in this morning on this whole business here and whether or not I think Nelly's going to go, whether I think he wants to go, and the Alvarez situation. Of course, I was just doing a little research this morning and reading up on some of this stuff, and I felt compelled to come on here and speak on Gabriel Martinelli and whether or not he will be going. Now, I do have a packet that I've kind of put together to keep me abreast of such things. And according to some of this research, it's an interesting situation with Martinelli. And it surprises me that he goes from not wanting to go to Galatasaray to now all of a sudden he's open to Al Hilal. And I get it. Money talks. But then the fee is only 50 million. You know, if we're going to sell to Saudi, why not get huge money for him? You know, and at the end of the day, all of these transfers, the theme of the transfer market and this transfer window, especially this one, if you want to look past the crazy exorbitant prices, I think the theme of this window has been where the player wants to go, what the player wants for their career, and what they want to do moving forward. I mean, if you look at the Vinicius saga as example, what did he want? He wanted to stay at Real Madrid, and that's eventually what he did. And so maybe the Alvarez situation is a little bit different because he's putting up such a fuss and wanting to go to Barcelona. And of course, the situation is a little bit different. But again, Alvarez wants to go to Barcelona. And so I think that is the biggest thing in that whole saga. But as far as Martinelli is concerned, it feels like he wants to stay at Arsenal. And if you agree, go ahead and smash up the likes, subscribe to the channel, get the notification bell on, all that good stuff. Make sure you're locked in. Of course, I do appreciate every single one of those. Make sure you're sharing across the socials, all that good stuff, of course. But it does seem like Gabriel Martinelli wants to stay at Arsenal and fight for his place. And I do think these two things are interconnected. I definitely think that there is the world where Nelly stays, Alvarez stays, and nothing else happens in this window for Arsenal. Let me know in the comments down below, if nothing else happens in this window, what you would grade Arsenal's transfer business out of 10 this summer. Because I think it's not all that bad. I think we've done decently as far as business is concerned. Yes, we can still improve the attack, but this is the reason I wanted to come on and make this video. Are we convinced, are we certain as Arsenal fans that Martinelli cannot improve? This is an opinion I've heard. He's 25, guys. He's 25. He can still improve. And obviously the club want to improve on him, but can he himself improve enough? Because he did do very well in the Champions League last season. That was where he was best, Gabriel Martinelli. And that is the next step in Arsenal's evolution. Obviously, if you look at how we started the league, if you look at how everyone else has kind of started the league and everyone else's transfer business, we are poised to go back to back. We are very much in the driver's seat to retain the titles. So our business moving forward in this next week is to help us win the Champions League. We're trying to improve to do even better and win bigger things. And so that's the question, right? Of course we can improve. You can always improve, in my opinion. But with Martinelli's best moments in the last couple of seasons coming, barring, of course, the Man City goal, coming in the Champions League, I think he had 6 or 7 goals last season. Do we want to keep Martinelli? Do we think he can improve and be the guy in the Champions League this season on that left-hand side, because obviously he looks and he sees Zolis is cooking. Zolis already has the shirt. Nelly didn't even get in the squad for the last 2 games. And so the plan is obviously for Christos Zolis to be the guy going forward. And if we get another left winger, if we somehow hijack the Barcola deal, Nelly's in trouble for sure. For sure he's not in the plans. But with the valuation of Bradley Barcola being insane, we don't look like we're going to match that. And so it's looking very, very likely now, especially if Martinelli doesn't want to go to Saudi. I know the reports are saying that he wasn't open to Turkey. He wasn't open to Galatasaray, but he is open to Al Hilal. And that one's a little weird to me. I mean, I feel like the culture of moving to Saudi is similar to moving to Turkey and Istanbul. I mean, I don't know much about where exactly in Saudi Al Hilal is, but I would assume that living in Istanbul is probably. I mean, I'm not going to say a higher quality of life because they're going to pay Martinelli out the ass in Saudi. That's pretty much the whole reason anyone goes there. And I think that in Turkey, there'll be, I don't know. I just feel like Istanbul is like a historic city. There's tons and tons and tons and centuries of culture there. So as far as the attractability of where he would be living, I would feel like Turkey would be more Turkey, I should say, would be more attractive in that regard, because we always have to consider all of these things when you're thinking about transfers. What is it exactly that's motivating the player? Like, for example, everyone was saying Rodri was motivated by wanting to live in Spain. If you look at the Cole Palmer thing about him maybe wanting to return to Manchester, that was that kind of smoke. So again, it comes back to what the player actually wants and what is their main motivation, and I think that Nelly could stay and fight for his place. And obviously, if you consider the fact that most players, and not all of them, obviously, most players, when they play for Arsenal, always speak highly after they've left and always consider, maybe, just maybe we might, go back there someday or whatever, and so you can tell that when players play for the Arsenal, they want to stay. They don't necessarily want to leave. And Arsenal is always, becomes a part of them, becomes a part of the player and who they are. And so you can understand Martinelli not wanting to leave. I mean, Arsenal as a club are in the ascension. We're in a period where there is potential for us to absolutely dominate the league. I'm not saying we're about to go and do a four-peat or anything. I'm just saying the potential is there this season to go back to back. The potential for this team to win major honors across the next 3-4 seasons is very, very high. And so it makes sense to me that Martinelli would want to stick around. He's only 25 and fight for a place in this champions team. Now, obviously many people think, and, myself included, that we can definitely improve on Martinelli, but that's not to say I don't believe he himself can't improve. I think the fact that Zolis has come in and taken the shirt immediately could put a rocket up his ass and could really make him train harder, could make him fight harder for his place, and that will only benefit the Arsenal. It's the same thing I was saying on Fire Them Cannons yesterday. Make sure you guys are locked in over there on the Overreaction Monday show that we did yesterday with Anton and Cal. I was saying, that I feel like he could definitely improve and he could fight for his place. Yes, we could improve on him because we can always improve. But I think what helps Arsenal, and which is what I want, over any player, over any, manager or situation or whatever, I want the Arsenal to do best and be in the best situation. And so even though I really do like Martinelli, I think him fighting for his place could really, really benefit us, especially if he doesn't go. What's up, JT? Hope you're well. And it's just like the Havertz-Gyökeres situation I was talking about yesterday. If Havertz is playing amazing and Gyökeres has to be amazing to oust him from the starting lineup, it only benefits Arsenal. It only benefits the team. Absolutely, JT. That's what we're looking for. No matter who it is, no matter who's wearing the shirt, hey, that's my point, JT. If Gyökeres kicks on and battles with Kai Havertz for scoring goals and being at the tip top of his game, then it only benefits Arsenal, And the same thing would happen if Alvarez came in. We would have a huge battle for who's going to be the number one guy, Yeah, I'm with you, JT. I understand the banter. The banter is always there. It's always fun. That's half the reason I'm on YouTube anyway. I actually would not be upset if we signed Njai, but I feel like it's not that big of an improvement. It's not that big of an improvement on Martinelli. We might as well just keep Nelly because he's got the Champions League experience over Iliman Njai, even though I do like him. But I think that, Martinelli could possibly stay and fight for his place. And I think it would only make us better. This I agree with 100%. I would have 150 million times taken Jai over Madueke. I agree with that 100%. But I do think there's a world where Martinelli stays and fights for his place. But again, it comes back to what the player actually wants. And I just don't see another situation out there that is more attractive than ours. Ndai's stats besides dribbling aren't even better than last season's Nelly. There you go. There you go. I don't think he's that big of an improvement on Martinelli, and as it gets later in the window, I feel like maybe Rafael would be an improvement on Nelly, but then he comes with his own problems, injury issues, and attitude issues. I agree with this as well. Njai plays against more open opponents. But the reason Gabriel Martinelli had success in the Champions League last season was this right here, is because the teams in the Champions League don't sit back against us, which is another thing that could, aid Martinelli if he decides to stay and kind of, I'll be the guy in the Champions League. Zolis can, do it for us in the Prem, But again, it's all about if Nelly wants to fight for his place in the team. And I don't see why he wouldn't want to. That's the kind of player he is, he always fights for the bad. And so I feel like I wouldn't be surprised. I would not be surprised at all if he decides to stay and fight for the shirt. I would absolutely accept it like for like if we make profit and be able to get more players. I agree with that. Absolutely. But there's the aspect that Martinelli is familiar. Martinelli, obviously, he and Arteta obviously have a good relationship. We know Martinelli. The players know Martinelli. And we know 100% what we're getting with him. We know the ceiling and we know the floor of what we're getting with him. And so I won't be surprised at all if he stays and fights for the shirt. I was calling for Michael Gotts for 50 million. He's an instant upgrade and huge potential. Yeah, I hear that. Paris swooped in and got him, though. JT, let me ask you this. Rate me out of 10. Maybe somebody more creatively gifted to feed. Yeah, I hear that. And we can already see that Zolis is doing that and is going to be feeding Gyökeres and Havertz all season long. JT, let me know out of 10, if we don't do anything else in this window, what Arsenal's window is. Like out of 10, if we don't do anything else. But as far as the Alvarez situation is concerned and how these things are connected, obviously, again, the theme is what does Julian Alvarez actually want to do? Where does he want to end up? Because the situation has deteriorated phenomenally. I mean, can you imagine? First of all, somewhere around the Zoomer meme, I'm not following this. I have no idea where you don't want to say it. Oh, I get what you're saying. You're not happy if we don't sign somebody else, if we don't upgrade on the attack. I hear you. The thing is, we have upgraded the attack phenomenally. I think Zolis is. Yeah, I'm not sure I'm understanding you then, JT. A 6. I see what you're saying. Yeah. I hear you. Six sounds about right. I think I'd be okay, honestly. I'd be fine if we don't sign anyone else. I think that I still obviously believe in Victor Gyökeres. I believe that he was brought in to win the Champions League, which is why it was absolutely baffling that he did not start in the final. And I'm still maintaining my position that Mikel Arteta favoring Havertz is a mistake, in my opinion. But like I said earlier, if Havertz is the guy scoring goals, making waves, being the man, it'll only make Gyökeres have to be better, which only benefits Arsenal. And so that is just fine with me. But the situation with Alvarez, it looks less and less like he's going to stay. That's the thing. It looks less and less and less like he's going to stay because the situation is horrible. Horrible there. Imagine Atletico Madrid should be beating Villarreal. Let's be honest. At home, for real. And then Alvarez comes on and late on and doesn't get the goal doesn't score the goal to win the game for them, and then gets booed. They're throwing stuff at him, and at the end of the game, instead of clapping the fans with the team, he goes down the tunnel immediately at the instruction of the coaching staff. By the way, they told him to do that. I agree with this. We can tell Arteta wants that false nine kind of profile, but I think Osimhen is like the same as Victor Gyökeres, to be honest with you. I would do this 100%. I would snap your hand off for this deal, JT, if we could get rid of Kai and bring in Alvarez and keep Gyökeres. But the problem still remains. Remember the theme of this transfer window. Alvarez wants Barcelona, man. But it's like I was saying to Cal and Anton yesterday, if Alvarez comes in thinking with the thought in mind that I'll play here for a season, I'll play here for maybe 2 seasons, and then I'll go to Barcelona. Let's look at how old Julian Alvarez is. Let's actually look at this guy's age here. Julian Alvarez, debut, born. He is 26 years old. So, yeah, I agree with this 100%, JT. I agree with this 100%. The aerial threat, big for sure. That's his main thing, absolutely. But see, the thing with Kai, the thing with me and Kai Havertz and the Gyökeres debate is always about what their role is. The guy at the top of the pitch is supposed to score goals. He's supposed to score goals. That's the main remit, you know. Yeah, see, this I don't agree with at all. The media, I don't agree with this either. That's ridiculous. The media can do all kinds of crazy stuff and blow everything out of proportion. But Julian Alvarez is only 26 years old. So if he comes to Arsenal for 2 seasons, or maybe even just 1 season, comes here, we win a league again, or maybe even he wins us the Champions League, and then he starts twerking for Barcelona again, shakes his booty, and maybe gets his move to Barca. And if that's in his head when he comes here, yeah, it might be difficult to, maybe get the best out of him, but that's the job. That would be up to Arteta. And, at this point in the story, in the process, we obviously have to trust Arteta. He's proven that he can get the league over the line. And now we need him to prove he can get the Champions League over the line. He wants Barca, but I think the fact he is reluctant to come into Arsenal is actually good. I honestly think Arteta could manage the situation for a season or even 2 seasons. He would help us to, win trophies, to win things and increase and be better. And then he goes. I don't think that's necessarily an issue. I think Arteta could manage it. I think he could help us to improve in Champions League, to improve in the league, and we could win stuff. And then he goes to Barca. I would be 100% fine with that. I would be so fine with that. You know, that means that he takes it seriously, wants Barca, and makes sure it's not happening, so he takes committing elsewhere seriously. Yeah, absolutely. And what if there's the world? What about this? What if there's the world where, and I was mentioning it earlier, where players love the Arsenal after they've played here, even after they've moved on? What if there's a world where we bring in Julian Alvarez, and in his mind, he's thinking, okay, I'm going to come here, I'm going to win a couple of things. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with this, JT. What if he comes here and we convince him, look, we're going to win shit with you here. We're going to win trophies. We're going to take the Champions League. We're going to win another league while you're here, and he comes in and he's thinking to himself, okay, I'll come to one of the best teams in England. I'll win a couple trophies and I'll keep my stocks up. I'll continue to keep my stocks up and then I'll get my Barcelona move. Okay. Atleti are scumbags, promised the world and stabbed him in the back. Atletico Madrid, the situation there is absolutely deteriorated. It's absolutely deteriorated. And I think that they have not handled it well. I tend to agree with this. I don't think Atletico have handled this well at all. But what if Alvarez comes in with the mindset, all right, I'm going to win. I'm going to keep my stocks high so that I can get my Barca move. When I'm 28, still in my prime, still 3-4, still enough time to get a major, massive contract that is the biggest contract of his career. But what happens when he comes here and falls in love with the club? What happens when Mikel Arteta's passion, drive, verve, and energy makes him see what we're doing here is actually something that's phenomenal, something he can get behind, something he can believe in, and he wants to stay after those 2 years. Players need to fully commit, as you said, needs to perform good for Barca to not change their mind. Absolutely. Absolutely. But that's what I'm saying. What if he comes here to the club and we convince him to stay and we get him for 6 years for the rest of his career, Yeah, absolutely. So if he comes here and decides that he likes playing here and then all of a sudden Barca go big on other targets, maybe he stays. So I definitely think there's a world where he comes to the club and we can convince him to stay. Especially if he comes in this season and we smoke the Champions League. If he comes in and sees, hey, we win the Champions League, especially if we do the double, if we win the league and the Champions League, and he's like, shit, this team is cooking. I might as well stay here and pad the trophy cabinet. I think there's a world where we do that. I don't like it either, but that is the name of the game. If we want to be in the market for time, I agree with this 100%. I agree with this 100% because once again, it always comes back to what the player wants. And in this situation, especially in the situations with the best of the top of the echelon, upper echelons of players, they're spoiled for choice. The market has done that to them. The world, the game itself, the environment in football has done this to the biggest names. They know that there's a myriad of suitors out there. They know that plenty of teams would love to have Alvarez as their number one striker. And so they have options. Vinny knew that anybody out there would take him. Anyone out there would take him. So it's on the player. And these tippy top upper echelon top tier players that you're speaking of, JT, know this. They know they have the options. And so things like this happens. Things like this Alvarez saga happens. For me, it's a little bit hypocritical when the same people were twerking for Vinny, even though they knew Madrid was always his first choice, but Alvarez was no-go, having basically the same preference. Yeah, it's a very similar situation. It's, again, like I say, it's coming back to what the player wants. And I think that these situations are highly linked, right? So if we do get Alvarez over the line, if Alvarez realizes that he's not going to get the Barca move this, in the next week, because we're literally down to 7 days. So he's not going to get his move and comes to Arsenal, I think Nelly might be gone. Because unless we can somehow get Napoli to pay for Jesus, to bring Jesus, I honestly think if we bring Alvarez, we might need to sell them both just to get the wages. We need to be ready to pounce as a top player opportunity And as you said, it's a good chance if signing is successful, he would be elected to even leave. Yeah, I agree. I agree with that 100%. I think that we can definitely convince him to stay if he comes and has success. So we're definitely keeping an eye on this one. Honestly, I would not be surprised at all if Martinelli wants to stay and fight for that left winger position and go again in the Champions League. I would also not be surprised if and when we brought Alvarez in, if Nelly and Jesus actually go. But again, it comes down to, can Al Hilal convince Martinelli to leave? And I bet for a lot of United players starting off the first year, United wouldn't be their first choice of time, but they basically stayed. Yeah, 100%. When you get there and you realize the environment and what things are going, and that's the reason I brought that up, is because what was Bruno's first thing that he said in his first interview that he did after he had been with the team a couple of days? He spoke on the level of professionalism. He spoke on Mikel Arteta's intensity, his drive, his passion, and his willingness to work and drive to win trophies and to get better and better and better and better and better. And top players and top professionals respect that immensely. And so I think there is a world where if we bring Alvarez in, yes, he still wants Barca, but we convince him to stay. Chemistry and the culture, as much as you might not like his football, he created a culture where players want to. Absolutely. As much as people call him Haram Ball, everyone wants to play for him. Everyone wants to run through a brick wall for him. And so I think he could most likely induce that reaction in Julian Alvarez as well. And obviously, we know that Arteta believes in himself to be able to maintain the situation and make the situation as best as it possibly can, as evidenced by the fact that Kai Havertz is still in this team. But I think we're going to wrap it up right there. So once again, people, ask yourselves what Martinelli wants. Ask yourselves if Alvarez will be able to get what he wants, and you might find what is actually going to happen. But of course, we're going to keep an eye on it in the coming days as all of this unfolds. We only got less than a week to finish up the transfer business, and of course the season has already kicked off and I'm loving it. We're looking very, very good. Got a what was going to be a more difficult game I expected at Villa Park on Monday, but now it's looking a little bit dicey for the Villains, and so I need the Chelsea win. I definitely need the Chelsea win, dude. We'll do a preview for this one, but yeah, I absolutely unequivocally need to beat Chelsea. These guys out here, especially after yesterday, man, these Chelsea fans need a reality check really bad. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up right there, so make sure you're locked in with that notification bell, of course. I was working. I didn't get to watch all of it. I watched the very end of it, unfortunately, like after all the goals. I had to work yesterday afternoon and didn't get to watch it, but I caught the highlights, and so definitely heard all the yeah, for sure. Leno definitely wasn't good enough, but Fulham won't be as bad as I expected either, so I'm certainly looking forward to all the action coming down the pipeline. 2 Leno blunders and Chelsea are in a title race. Yeah, absolutely. So make sure you're liking. Make sure you're subscribing. Big up yourself, JT, every single time. Thanks for being here. Yeah, Charles, wrapping this one up. This was a quick video this morning. Thanks for being here, everybody. Make sure you're locked in. We got plenty more coming down the line. I'm pretty sure Anton's Tears is live right now over there on Fire Them Cannons. So head on over there. Make sure you're locked in over there as well. I appreciate everything. I think he's supposed to be live, JT, for Anton's Tears. I could be wrong. Maybe it's not live yet, but it might just be. So go on and check that out over on Fire Them Cannons. I appreciate everyone being here, and you will see me next time.